Hey guys, welcome back for another video. This time we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to switch out a number of miniatures during the paint session, so it won't be like the original, like the former format. It'll be more like what I originally had planned to do and just never got around to doing. I sort of got stuck on certain particular miniatures that I was painting, so and talking about that, I might just move the palette out of the way and so you can see what I have ended up finishing. So I did finish the Supreme Patriarch. I was going to say Supreme Commander. I suppose he's a bit of a Supreme Commander in terms of the colleges of magic and that kind of thing, but yeah, I think overall I'm quite happy with it. I'm just glad he's done now and he's based and all that kind of thing. I can put him in the cabinet to start my Empire collection. So thank you for your endurance. A bit like a marathon, a bit of a painting marathon to get this guy done. So I just sort of fiddled around and got all the other stuff done. The stirrups and the shoes, his boots I should say really. Got that done, just did some tidying up here and there. Yeah, so, and varnished him of course with the matte varnish, took all that glossiness off there. You should really varnish your miniatures after you paint them anyway, especially the metal ones, because they are subject to chipping and that kind of thing and wear and tear when playing with them. So yeah, very happy that he's finished and I can put him back in the cabinet, and you can await his fellow Empire comrades to join him at some point. Then I got that shield knocked up on the spearman, the high elf spearman, so that'd be the first high elf in my collection too. So I'm really happy that that's start of two new armies, the very early conceptions of them anyway. Long way away from actually having something playable, but yeah, it's nice to have some test models that I can work on in the background and with you guys too in the channel. So today I've decided we're going to definitely start on the ogre. I'm going to do the greatsword guy as well, mainly work on the flesh for these guys, and I'm sort of smitten with the high elves at the moment. I'm going to do an archer as well, so I'm going to switch those three out in the paint session today, and we'll just keep alternating with different miniatures as we go along and try to finish them all off over a number of sessions. So I hope that sort of format is maybe a bit more interesting, because you can see lots of different colours and techniques being played out all at the same time. Okay, so let's start with some flesh then, with the ogre. I've just got this colour here in the palette. Let's grab some colours first and just chuck them on there. So I've got this rose brown, what's called rose brown, which is kind of like a dwarf flesh. It's got a lot of grey in it, and I quite like this colour. I don't know why I bought it initially, but I thought it's a really nice colour for flesh tones, and it's sort of my go-to paint now for doing flesh, because the other flesh, like the sunny skin tone and those kind of things, are very, very yellowy, and I don't like the overly yellow colours of the skin tones so much. They're very, very cold looking, I think. So I'm going to give this guy a base coat of that. It's also good to switch them out, because once things are drying, I can switch around and do something else and paint something else on another miniature. So I'll try to do the flesh on this guy and do the flesh on the greatsword all at the same time. Now, there are many different recipes for flesh. I'm not by any means or any stretch of the imagination the expert on flesh. I've seen some guys are just really good at it. For me, it's always been a struggle, so to get it right to a point where I'm really happy with it. And but I think my dwarves were a good practice for doing flesh, because they've got a lot of faces, and troll slayers, I did 20 of those, and they're almost naked, those guys, just skin and beards really. So I've sort of come to a recipe that I'm sort of quite happy with using at the moment. And if you've got your own kind of recipe, maybe you want to share it with us and let us know what it is. But yeah, I find this one sort of does the job that I need it to do. Yeah, this is for a commission for David in the States. So I'm sure David will probably be watching this at some point, and happy to see some paint on this guy. And the great swordman too, because I really want to get my commission sort of underway, and this probably the channel sort of facilitates that that sort of part of doing those at the same time, because yeah, when I'm not doing this on camera, I'm sort of doing my own stuff and getting my rebasing underway and trying to get that sort of finished. So I'm nearly got my ball boys all done, and I just need to chase down one more. I've got like the big one that's like the one I'm going to use for the Black Orc General, which I've already forgotten his name. Neck Snapper, Morgrim Neck Snapper, that's him. But he's way too big. Like as a model, he's just so huge that he'll never fit in that unit. And I've already got other models that, even the ones that Kev did for Nightmare Games, really beautiful models, but they're a bit on the large size, and that's the only criticism I'll have of those, is that ranking them up is really quite difficult. You can do it, but I just don't want them rubbing against each other. So I've got a mix of the old Marauder ball boys and the Citadel ones, and they're a lot smaller. In the actual boars are smaller, the orcs are smaller, and you can put those in between just to give a bit of spacing and gaps between them. And because I did get a bit of damage on them when playing with them last time. Okay, so that's on there, we'll let that dry. Okay, so next. I'm really looking forward to painting this guy up too, because it's such a beautiful model. You wouldn't know that it's, that old. I think it's from 1991, I think, these models. Maybe someone can correct me, but I'm pretty sure these are around 1991 when they were released. I'm pretty sure it's from the very first White Dwarf that I ever bought, was 147, and they had a big spread on these guys as a showcase of like the heavy metal pages, where they had all these models published for the first time, and then the rules for them for using in 3rd edition. And yeah, really blown away by that. I actually need to get that copy of that White Dwarf again one day, I think. Now the High Elf, I think last time I just used the other colour, which I'm going to get out anyway. It's the Sunny Skin Tone. It's a much lighter colour for elven skin. I think it just looks better. Yeah, thanks for everybody's feedback and comments and all that kind of thing, Diego, and don't worry, I'm going to get that troll primed up tomorrow, so that troll will definitely be sort of switching in and out during paint sessions at some point, so I'm really keen to see that painted, and it'd be just nice to have that in the cabinet with all my other new stuff that's all been rebased and everything. And you can take trolls as independent models anyway. They don't need to be in a unit of 5, so they can be just solos. And maybe I'll just give them a spin one day, so if I can. And I need to paint up my Skaven too, because that's been sitting here on my table for weeks and weeks and weeks, if not more than a month now. And I'm sort of pestering Justin to paint up his Empire stuff and get that finished, but I'm sure he could just turn around and say, well, why haven't you finished all your Skaven yet? So that's a fair comment. going to take a swig of my drink here. I won't tell you what it is, but it's very alcoholic and it's very nice. So I'm just working on a standard bearer too. I'm just going to repaint the shield, but that's one of the Nightmare Games ball boys that Diego has in his store at the moment. So I've got 5 of these. I'm just redoing the shield. It's going to probably do that in yellow, I think, just to brighten it up a bit. And yeah, just converted the I think the halberd that it was carrying. I'm just gonna that was a banner pole for the Anvil of Doom, I think, and I used some Empire banners for that in replace of those. So I used that. I've used that from used the other one on another guy as well for a standard bearer. So just got that. And I got one of the, I think they're like the 6th edition plastic banners, and that'll go on there at some point. And I have to get that primed up tomorrow and painted. So that'll be nice to just have a standard in the unit, because I don't actually have one as yet. Don't need a musician. Never saw the point of having musicians for cavalry units. Just pointless. Especially for the points you have to pay for them. It's just not worth it. But yeah, busy guys. I hope you guys are busy too with your hobby time at the moment and having fun with it. Right, what are we going to do now? So let's give another coat of that. There. So it's been Mother's Day here, so we spent some time together as the family, and just had a lazy day. It's been like a really, overcast, cloudy day. Not cold, it's just, now it's raining. It's been raining for ever since about, I don't know, ever since maybe 7 PM or something. It's just been raining and raining now. So it's been a bit of a, lazy day. Didn't really do much. Had a nice dinner and everything together. So I hope you guys had a good Mother's Day, or you're about to have a good Mother's Day. I suppose the Mother Day is a bit different depending on where you are around the world, but I know in Australia it's today, but a Nepalese lady was telling me that their Mother's Day was 2 weeks before, so I think it's different in different countries. Now, the Middle Hammer group is doing the Monopose challenge at the moment, painting. It's not a painting competition, it's just that, you paint something. I should have actually taken a photograph of this guy before I started painting it. That's okay. If I don't enter it, I probably won't even have time. But I thought that's a cool idea. I'm just going to get my elves out and start painting those up. But yeah, they do like every month or every couple of months they do a competition where, they have some kind of idea or theme to it. You paint up the miniatures, then they draw one from random. They give you like a £20 voucher for the Monster Merchants web store, which I was lucky enough to win. It's at one point, and from that, the guys at Monster Merchant, a bit of a tongue twister. Monster Merchant sent me the Skaven Army book, so that's how I got that one, which was cool. Now, this ogre's got a lot of chainmail, and so I'm going to put some of that. What's this called? It's like a dark sea green. It's called. So I quite like. I just want to mix up my metals and just try some different kind of colours. I used that colour for the High Elf guy, and I quite liked how that all turned out. So just a bit of water to thin that out a bit. And I uploaded another video today, just a quick one from the guy from the Hero Hammer group, and he had like a really amazing looking battle of 5th Ed with his friend I don't know who was playing what, but they had Empire versus Orc and Goblins, and yeah, really, really beautiful looking table, and models are beautifully painted, and on both sides. So yeah, I mean, it's rare to get those, especially now, like with the pandemic going on. It's you see very, very few battles being played, but yeah, hopefully he and his friend, or whoever it is, it might be one of his family members or something, yeah, continue to make those really nice looking battle reports, and so that we can enjoy looking at them, and maybe get some inspiration for some color schemes or things like that on our armies and stuff. The other guy that I see posting up a lot of stuff, like battle report wise, is that I think his name is Balder. I think he's a Swedish gentleman from the Warhammer Renaissance group. I think he started that group, and he's got his own sort of rules for his own variant of 4th edition fantasy. I know he's put a lot of work into it. I've never seen it myself. I've never read through the books or anything like that. I've never played it. I just enjoyed looking at all the photographs of all the games they've been playing. But I do want to get Boulder onto the podcast at some point, so I want to talk to him about it, and so he can give me and you guys some kind of breakdown on what the changes are, what he done differently, or why did he do it, and things like that. Why doesn't he just play 5th edition? So yeah, I'd be interested to have a bit of a chat with him at some point in the future, if possible, if he's willing to do that. I sort of extended the invitation out to him, so I think he will do that. So I'm trying to get some more guests for the podcast lined up. The next one, hopefully, maybe Big Jim from my mate on Twitter. He might have time to come on and for the next guest interview, which I hope he does, because he's got a really interesting story, and he has his own podcast too, which is called The Days of High Adventure. So you can find that on iTunes and all the other. I don't know about the other hosting sites, but I've got him on iTunes, and I sort of know him through Twitter. And he's got a really incredible story about how he got into gaming and through his father, and he's got a long history of playing all different kinds of games. Starting from I think 3rd edition, or even before that. I think it might have been 3rd edition when he started, and he went through the whole 4th edition, then 5th edition. I think his father hated 5th edition or something, and because of the magic and that kind of thing, and they stopped playing, and I think they got back into it when they played 6th edition. But he's got lots of miniatures and armies and that kind of stuff, so yeah, I wouldn't mind getting him on the podcast to have a bit of a chat with us about his gaming history, to share with you guys. I think that'd be quite cool. Might as well just extend that straight over to this guy and just paint up his sword at the same time. Also, maybe I told this last time, I can't remember, but we updated that Google Doc. Me and Neville, or Neville's doing it basically. He's the man in charge of all that. So he changed it so that you can write a battle report, and that you can upload photographs to that Google Doc. So this is for like the worldwide campaign, or whatever it's going to be in the future. I don't know what it's going to be exactly, but it's going to be something that we want to organise for the community, so they can log their games in and record their battles and put photos up there. And I think that's a really cool idea, and hopefully it'll become a reality at some point, when all this crazy stuff settles down and we get back to some kind of normal way of living. mind you, it's been really crazy here in Japan because, we went to the bakery and there's a little bakery down the road here, and there's no concept of social distancing. Everybody's like crammed in there, all the way from the door all the way to the register. And then my son got the shits because he couldn't get his particular bread that he wanted, and he went psycho. So it was just another horrible experience going out during the pandemic. So I vowed never to go back there again, actually. But it's just surreal, it's just like, not that Japan's not taking it seriously, it's just that it's so different from other countries. When you hear about them or the things they're experiencing, it's just totally surreal here. It's almost like you forget that we actually have a pandemic going, currently worldwide. So. These are gorgeous plastic miniatures, aren't they? And these are the first, well, they're not the first plastic miniatures. I did have the Regiments of Renown set as my very first plastic box set. And I think I just painted the orcs, and I think the other stuff, I don't know what happened to it. No idea. I don't think I painted any of it, because you had Dark Elves, Skaven, Goblins, Dwarves, Wood Elves in there. But I have no idea what happened to it. I'm pretty sure I probably would have, knowing me, and of all the stupid stuff I've done over the years with miniatures, I would have just given it to somebody, I'd say, or sold it or swapped it or whatever. But I had an interesting sort of a type chat or text chat, or what do you want to call it, with a guy in Japan here who's like a super fan of 3rd edition, hates 4th edition. So we had a bit of a talk. We had a talk about it, because I said, maybe you want to come on the podcast and explain, why. I sort of want to make it more inclusive for those guys too, to have, I'm sort of interested in what people think, because some people didn't embrace the change from 3rd edition to 4th edition, where I for myself, loved and embraced that change, but some people absolutely hated it and completely rejected it. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how people cope with that, or what they did with it. And like I said, in the podcast too, there's still huge communities of people playing 3rd edition out there. You can find them on, there's a massive group on Facebook from the Old Hammer group. Might make that in silver too. And there's a forum too that's relatively active, I guess. I jump on there from every now and again, but I don't really use forums that often anymore, because I see them as quite defunct now, since that social networking has been around, and you get that sort of instant stream of information coming up on your wall, or whatever you want to call it. You can scroll through and check everything and comment on stuff, and it's still all there. You can still find all that stuff, but I know people still prefer forums and that kind of thing when they want to do like written tutorials or battle reports and that kind of thing. So that's definitely has a place there. Like blogs and that kind of stuff are still around. Yeah, just let that guy go there for now. So yeah, I'm really happy when people say they've been painting along with these videos when watching it. That's the aim of it. So I'm glad that's actually happening with you guys. So that's good. Don't just sit there and vegetate and watch me do this. You know, get your paints out and start painting stuff. And I don't know how you know, for me personally, I don't know how effective painting tutorials are. You know, I've watched a few of them, but I don't really see how they can be really, you know, so effective that you become like a different painter. I mean, you can pick up some tips and that kind of stuff, but again, you have to do all the work. So it's basically, I suppose looking at somebody doing something is very helpful, but you know, you're doing all the hard work. So what else is news? Well, since finishing that Supreme Patriarch, I did pull out the other 2 Heroes of the Empire in my stash. So I do intend to put them together and prime them up. I've got to find my Amethyst Wizard too, because he's around somewhere. And I do want to put together a few Halflings as well, so I think that'd be just nice to paint, because I've never painted a Halfling before. And I think it'd be nice for Paul to see those painted, as he did, you know, did give me those ones. So I do fully intend to paint all of those ones that he gave me, so to make a really nice little regiment of Halflings. They're really good in the game too, like BS4 with, is it standard bows? They must have the standard bows, I think, not long bows, but yeah. And for the Empire army, some ogres. I need to get some ogres at some point, and I don't want them like as well. I could use them as just as the ogres the Perrys did for 4th edition, because I want to use those for my Orc and Goblins as well, or try to hunt down the very elusive Marauder ones they did, that had a lot of, you know, sort of puffed up shirts and frilled sleeves and that kind of thing. The other alternative I saw too was that Kev Adams did a whole range of like bigger orcs, like, you know, they're like really big looking orcs for Foundry. I actually had one of those way back in the day, and I don't know what the hell happened to it. I must have sold it or something. Never painted it, but yeah, using those and putting them on a 50x50 base and having them as the ogres for the Empire. I think I've seen some guy doing it. It looked really quite good, actually. It looked quite nice. I mean, they're a little bit smaller. They're smaller than these guys, but you know, they're not that much smaller for it to look like they're just giant orcs. So, but you know, to get them from Foundry will cost an absolute fortune, I would imagine. Especially if you want to like about 5 or 6 of them. So, yeah, but ideally, I'd want the set of these guys. So this is like the standard bearer that David's converted, but there are 5 different variants of these, which I really like. So I'll probably end up getting those at some point and using them for the Orc and Goblins and for the Empire. Just thinking if I needed another giant. What kind of giant would I get? I don't know if you can beat that one from Ali though, like the original giant though that he did. It's hard to come up with something that's like an alternative to really match it in terms of quality. And actually that giant really suits like an Empire army, the way it's dressed. It looks like this sort of like a Roman style outfit that he's got on. did see one. It's made of resin though. I can't remember the company's name, but they had like a Kickstarter on at that time or something, and they had another range of other miniatures that look really quite nice. And I thought, yeah, if I was going to get another one, maybe that would be a nice alternative. But I do like them in metal. I do like, I love metal miniatures. I love the weight of them, much more than plastic. With the exceptions of some plastics, because they've just got some sort of sentimental value to me, or to in order to buy an entire metal regiment of high elf archers or spearmen, for example, it just wouldn't make sense unless you were there at the time and you worked for GW and you could buy a whole heap of blisters of those guys and have your own units. It's very rare to see. I did see one guy in the Old Hammer forum. He had an entire metal Orc and Goblin army, and all the archers, like the Night Goblin archers, were all metal. Yeah, that was something really incredible to see, because you never see that otherwise. You never see a fully metal Night Goblin army. You'd always have plastics in it. Okay, so we're still letting that guy dry because it's still quite wet. Just wondering if that grey is still a bit light, but seemed to work okay last time, so don't know why it's sort of coming up too light. Now the Empire dude, I don't know exactly what I don't know what sort of province he's going to come from, what part of the Empire, what he'd be like a what's the one they always paint like in the red, white and blue? I'm trying to think what that's called now. So I'm going to grab my Empire book so I can have a look. Now, let's have a look here. Here we go. Here are the soldiers of the Empire. So we've got Altdorf. Altdorf is the one that usually people paint their plastic halberdier guys in. We've got Hochland. Hochland looks quite nice, it's red and green. Midland, yeah, blue and yellow, quite like that. Wissenland, yeah, okay, white and grey and red. Not so keen on that one. Now, Karlberg looks quite cool. It's got black, red and white and yellow and touch of blue. Quite taken with that one. Ostermark looks quite good too. Red and yellow and white and a bit of black. Looks quite nice. Middenheim, yeah, looks like Altdorf, pretty much the same, but it's got bone on it. Stirling's quite nice too. It's got green and yellow. Tullum, was it? Talabheim. It's quite cool too. Nordland looks nice. I was looking at what I was going to do with my Empire army in actually, and I was looking at Nordland. They look quite cool. It's got that yellow, just breaks up that white and blue a little bit. Ostland, Averland. Yeah, that's the guy who did the battle report. I quite like that too, because it's yellow and black. I quite like yellow and black together. Reekland, or I won't get that one wrong. Talabekland. Yeah, Talabekland looks quite cool too, actually. I like that blue and yellow and red. But I think I might go for this Karlberg. I think Karlberg might be the one. We'll do that guy in. So that's white and red and a bit of yellow. His plumes are white and blue. Okay. His armor's black. Right. Okay, so that means that armor's going to be black instead of that grey, which is probably a good idea that I should have checked that before I did all this, but that's all right. Well, I hope you're okay with that, David. You did leave it up to me, so hopefully, you know, you agree with my decision there. Maybe it's a good idea for me to avoid yellow at all costs at this stage, because I've just been through a whole trial of fire through yellow, and maybe it's nice just to change it up a little bit. I do like yellow, and now I'm enjoying it now. I've got that beige colour that's sort of helping me out a lot with the yellow. Ivory is a really great colour to use with yellow too. So I do want to paint yellow a little bit more, because I too avoid it. You know, I also, you know, I'll admit I do try to avoid that colour at all costs as well, because I know it's a real pain to deal with. Now, it was in red, wasn't it? All these puffy parts here in red. And I think he had, is it white or black? I think it was black in the, those little cleats on his, and maybe this is red too. It's a bit difficult. This is my first time painting Empire, so it's I'm probably going to make a few mistakes here and there, and I'll need to correct and change as I go along. But I better get used to it, because I've got a whole unit of these at some point that I need to paint for myself. I'm still not 100% sure of what sort of colour scheme and what part of the Empire I want to do. But yeah, I've got plenty of time to think about it, and I've lots of practice with David's Empire guys here for his Mordenheim warband, so I'll have fun thinking about it anyway. Just looking through that book too, it's just such a classic book. I think that was the very first army book they ever released for 4th edition, and it was the first book they released, you know, as in, I'm pretty sure it was the first one. I don't think it was High Elves. I don't think it was Orc and Goblins. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure the Empire were the very first book they released, even though they didn't come in the actual box set. But the box set had a set of rules. I think Dave Lister threw those up as a file on the group page as well. Just like a generic list of units that you know, for the armies. So, you know, before the army books were released, they released those, or they just provided lists for all your armies, and you know, you could just run with that. Now his hat be red too? I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to look at that picture again and just have a quick think about how I'm gonna do that. Alright, his armor's still a bit wet in places here and there, so we need to leave that for now. But the skin is ready to go to the next stage. So I've just got some red here. I'm just going to use that as a wash. It's probably going to go over the metals. I'm not too overly worried about that, because the metals will be shaded later on. But I just find this red, it's just called red, Vallejo red, and it's just like a darker red that I like using for this flesh flesh tone. I did this for my dwarves as well, and it just provides a nice little base for me to work with. And I'm just going to apply this wash here, guys, and I'm going to leave it there for tonight, as it is getting a bit late here, and it's in the morning at the moment. And I think ideally, I don't think I'm going to get that much more done. I could do more on the high elf, but I think we'll just leave that for another video. I like to keep them a little bit shorter if I can, like 35-40 minutes if possible. Sort of like nice little sort of short chunks of video rather than one big long, everlasting kind of video. And I need to do some other stuff as well after I finish here today. But that's basically you're going to get some runoff there as well. But that's okay, we can clean that up later. That's basically the start of that flesh anyway. So just basically that, I'm using that rose brown and the red as the two parts first off. And then in the next video, we'll see it progress. When that's dried, we'll do our first sort of mid-tone highlight on that skin. And we'll go from there, guys, okay? So if I have a time, I'll try to do one tomorrow morning, if possible. Just a short one, even like it's 30 minutes or something, because it is my day off tomorrow. And then we can do another one in the early morning again. All right, guys. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you had a good night or good day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, take care.